So, you're trying to pick a front-end framework in 2025? It feels more complicated than ever, right? The whole landscape is just this blur of new tools, constantly shifting trends, and a whole lot of buzzwords. So how do you even begin to make sense of it all? Let's dive in and break it down.
You know, if you're a developer, this quote, it probably hits really close to home. It doesn't matter if you're brand new to the field or you just stepped away for a bit. Jumping back in can feel like you're trying to drink from a fire hose. The number of choices is just overwhelming. It's so easy to feel completely lost.
Okay, so let's get one thing straight right off the bat. We're not here to crown one framework the single best one. There's no magic bullet. This explainer is all about giving you the context, the data, and the perspective to make an informed choice. The choice that's right for your project, your career, and honestly, what you enjoy working with. The question isn't what's best, it's what's best for the job at hand.
All right, first things first, we have to talk about the giants in the room. The ones that have dominated the scene for years now, React, Angular, and Vue. Even with all the exciting new stuff popping up, these three still hold a massive, massive share of the market.
There's this great analogy that I think really nails their different philosophies. Think of it like a kitchen. Angular, that's the entire kitchen. It's got the stove, the sink, the countertops, everything included, all designed to work together. It's a complete and, pretty opinionated solution. Then you've got React. React is just the oven. It's a super powerful, essential core, but you have to bring your own pots, pans, and everything else to build a meal around it. And Vue? Vue is the microwave. It's efficient, it's super easy to get started with, and it gets the job done incredibly fast.
So how does that kitchen analogy actually play out in the real world? Well, Angular, the full kitchen, is a complete framework backed by Google. It's built for huge enterprise projects that need everything to be standardized, but that means it has a pretty steep learning curve. React, the oven, is technically a library, not a framework. It's backed by Meta, and its flexibility is why it's used in, well, almost everything. And Vue, the microwave, is a framework that's famous for its gentle learning curve and an incredibly passionate community, making it a favorite for startups and teams that need to move fast.
But it's not just about the old guard, right? There's this whole new wave of challengers making some serious noise. Frameworks like Svelte and SolidJS are grabbing developers' attention because they're doing things in a totally new and exciting way.
And man, can you feel the passion. You see comments like this all over Reddit and developer forums. People who try these new tools, especially Svelte, they just fall in love with them. They're constantly raving about how great the developer experience is and how fast their apps are.
But then you get hit with a dose of reality. This is a quote from the very same community. A hiring manager pops onto a job board and sees a totally different story. All that developer love, all that passion, it hasn't quite translated into a flood of job postings just yet.
And this, right here, is the core dilemma for so many of us developers today, isn't it? It's this constant push and pull. Do you go with the tool you absolutely love to use, the one that feels like the future, or do you go with the one that has the massive, established ecosystem and an ocean of jobs?
You know, this whole debate is actually bigger than just React versus Svelte. There are these huge technological shifts happening underneath everything, and they affect all of front-end development. Let's look at what's really driving change.
So one of the absolute game changers lately is this thing called server components, which React has been pioneering. The basic idea is that instead of running all your UI code in the user's browser, you run it on the server. This means your components can do wild things, like talk directly to a database, without you having to build a separate API endpoint.
Okay, so how does this magic actually work? Let's break it down. First, your component runs on the server. Second, while it's there, it grabs whatever data it needs directly. And third, it sends only the final HTML and the tiniest bit of JavaScript needed to make the page interactive over to the browser. The result? We're talking huge performance wins, especially for people on slower phones or bad internet connections.
And then there's the other elephant in the room, AI. This isn't about rendering. It's about how we literally write our code. Tools like GitHub Copilot are already changing everything. And get this, Gartner is predicting that by 2025, a whopping 80% of new IT capabilities will come from AI-powered tools. This means AI is basically becoming our coding partner, no matter which framework we choose.
Okay, so we've talked philosophy, we've talked cool new tech.
But for a lot of us, let's be real, it all comes down to one very practical thing: getting a job. So let's look at the hard numbers.
And when you look at the job market in the US, wow, the numbers don't lie. React is just in a totally different league with over 52,000 jobs. Angular is a solid but distant second. And Vue, for all its popularity with developers, has way fewer official listings. If your number one priority is the biggest possible pool of job opportunities, the data points pretty clearly in one direction.
But hold on, job numbers are just one piece of the puzzle, right? What about developer happiness? This is where the story gets really interesting. According to Stack Overflow's survey, the number of developers who use Vue and want to keep using it is almost identical to React. So while React absolutely dominates the job market, Vue inspires this incredible loyalty and satisfaction.
So, we've got job data pointing one way and developer love pointing another. We've got the old guard and the new wave. We have huge tech shifts happening underneath it all. What in the world are we supposed to do with all of this information? How do you actually move forward?
Look, the goal here is not to get paralyzed by the options. It's not about freezing up. It's about building your own personal roadmap and shifting your mindset from what's the hottest new thing to what's the smartest move for me.
I think it really boils down to a simple three-step mindset. First, focus on the fundamentals. The core ideas of programming and how the web works are going to outlast any of these frameworks. Second, go deep, not wide. Seriously, pick one stack and become a master at it. Being an expert in one thing is so much more valuable than knowing a tiny bit about 10 things. And finally, ask the right questions. Don't be a fanboy for any one tool. Be a professional who picks the absolute best tool for the specific problem you're trying to solve.
Because at the end of the day, all of this stuff, React, Vue, Svelte, server components, they're just tools. The landscape is complicated, sure, but your goal as a developer is actually really simple: to build cool things. So the real question isn't, which framework should I learn? The real question is, what are you going to build?